A Roadside Stand. This poem is written by Robert Frost. Robert Frost is a highly acclaimed American poet, and in his poems, he has usually focused on the theme of human tragedies and fears and their ultimate acceptance or their solutions. In this poem, Roadside Stand, he deals with the lives of poor and deprived people of the villages with a clarity that is perceptive, and at the same time, he portrays his deepest sympathies and his feelings of humanity. The poem also brings into focus the unfortunate fact that progress and development is unequal between the cities and the villages and leading to the feelings of distress and unhappiness among the dwellers of the villagers. The little old house was out with a little new shed in front of at the edge of the road where the traffic sped. A roadside stand that too pathetically pled, it would not be fair to say, for a dole of bread. The poem begins by describing a small shed that a rural family put up on the side of a highway, hoping to be able to sell some of their produce to the passengers in a steady stream of cars that came from the city. Compared to the fancy cars, the makeshift stand looked pitiful and seemed to implore the passers-by to stop. They were not asking for charity, but just for the patronage of the city dwellers. So, what the roadside stand is demanding? Just a request. This stand was near the main road and a lot of traffic passed that way. The inmates of the roadside stand stood and awaited with expectations for the passerby to halt and buy some food items from them. It would be unfair to say that these people were begging for some food because they wanted to make a decent living by selling few things. They wanted some cash from these city people, which they would otherwise spend on saving their flowers from dwindling away. The same money could be used to support the lives of these people from sinking deep into poverty. The flowers of city, the fruit of the industrial processes is money. As a fervent lover of nature, what Frost says, he says that it is the flower of the city or its wealth which keeps it from sinking. As a farmer, it comes naturally to him to draw his comparison from nature and not industry to make his point. The villagers would also like to share in this flower or wealth, but they want to earn it legitimately, not merely receive a handout. The polished traffic passed with a mind ahead, or if ever aside a moment, then out of sorts at having the landscape marred with the artless paint. So, what is given in these lines? That the city people are totally indifferent to the people in the roadside stand. Their cars pass by with speed, and their minds are only busy thinking about their destinations. In these lines, the poet refers to the traffic as polished, just to draw attention to the sophistication of the city folk. Further, this sophistication is contrasted with the crude hand painted signs that indicate north and south, and worse still, they point in the wrong direction. Instead of creating in the passerby the desire to stop and buy something, the roadside stand and the badly painted signs only annoy the city people. They feel irked, believing that the picturesque view of the countryside is marred by these sights. The drivers see the handiwork of the farmers as a blemish, and they are unable to appreciate its rustic beauty. So, at having the landscape marred with the artless paint of signs that with N turned wrong and S turned wrong. Now, knowing forests learning towards nature and the pastoral, it becomes pertinent to point out that there are two views possible. Do the signs and stands mar the landscape? Or is it the cars rushing past that mar the natural beauty of the mountains? The difference in perspective depends on who is looking at it, people from the city or people from the country. Now, in the other lines, which says, offered for sale wild berries in wooden carts, or crook necked golden squash with silver warts. These lines tell us what on sale in the roadside stand. The farmers had berries packed in handy quantities, fresh squash, and paintings of the exquisite mountain right panoramas. The farmers take it very personally that the urbanites reject their fresh fruit and vegetables, and worse than that is their rejection of art. Ignoring art is also perceived as disastrous for humanity, as art is the pinnacle of what humans can aspire to and achieve. If man is indifferent to art, it shows that he is on a downward spiral. The city people feel that these badly maintained sheds spoils the beauty of that lovely and scenic beauty scenery. You have the money, but if you want to be mean, why keep your money and go along? In these lines, the poet feels really agitated and questions the city folk as to why they are being mean and indifferent despite having so much money. He feels that the rich shouldn't complain of the harm these poor people are causing to the surroundings. This kind of complaint is unjustified. Not only this, but Robert Frost says in these lines basically describe the hurt and anger of the village folk. They feel the pain of rejection and the meanness of the city dwellers. They are heartless in their indifference, while their complaint is only against the scenery. The complaint that the rural people have is that their needs have been ignored. All they desired was to share a bit in the abundance of city wealth, to experience some of the luxuries that they had seen in films, in the Hollywood movies. Someone had suggested to them that it was the political party in power that had been preventing them from getting rich. These poor rustic people set up their roadside stand away from the city. They sincerely hope that some money from the rich city dwellers will come in their hands and improve their living condition. With this money, what they will do? They will be able to fulfill their basic needs in a better manner. The ruling party has promised them financial independence and better living, but they have failed to keep their promises. The poet wishes to say that neither the city dwellers nor the ruling party has come to uplift and help these poor people. Some are indifferent, the others make false promises. So basically, they are not happy with the things happening with them. It is in the news that these pitiful kin are to be bought out and mercifully gathered in. The speaker says that it was recently flashed in the news that all the poor people will be collected from their places and made to live in the village, where they would also have urban comforts like a theater and a store, and they wouldn't have to worry about their livings. Now, the capitalists and social workers, they pretend to do welfare, but they are selfish and greedy like beasts of prey. Now, while greedy good doers, beneficent beasts of prey, swarm over their lives, enforcing benefits that are calculated to soothe them out of their wits. So, what the poet wants to convey? That these people cheat them, make false promises, and lure them with comforts which are cleverly planned to cheat them. They hover over them like a large number of flies and pretend to provide amenities and comforts beyond their imagination. The innocent rustics get lured and become lazy and ignorant. They become puppets in their hands and forget about their rights. Then these greedy benefactors teach them to forget about their rights and privileges and keep sleeping. So, what the poet says, that there was a news that the village folk were going to be relocated to accommodate the expanding city. Soon the growing city would encroach upon the farmlands, and theaters and malls would spring up everywhere. Using sharp irony, Frost refers to good doers, or people who pretend to be doing good, that would come alongside the displaced villagers and offer them benefits, probably monetary compensation for the loss of their land. But these are only so called benefits because they will eventually ruin their lives and make them lazy. They are calculated or intended to stop their minds from working, so that in time they would forsake their ancient ways of working hard by day and sleeping well at night. What Robert Frost says, Robert Frost calls the good doers beasts of prey, for they would benefit the most from displacing the rural people. This is so reminiscent of what often happens in countries. Thousands of villagers migrate to our cities each day until they learn a different trade or get engaged in a new profession. They appear like a burden to the city. However, in truth, if they are out of work, it is because of the expansion of the city. The city has caused them to lose all they had. Yet the city is harsh and unwelcoming in its attitude towards them. Sometimes I feel myself I can hardly bear the thought of so much childish longing in vain. Childish longing, longing which cannot be fulfilled easily. So, in these lines, Frost reveals his own thoughts on the predicament of the villagers. He is deeply grieved by their disappointment each time a car rolls past. He finds their continual expectation that some car may stop to make a purchase extremely childish. The farmer is constantly waiting to hear the squeal of tires, hopeful that he will be able to sell something, but none of the city folk seem interested in favoring them with a purchase. The poet cannot bear the thought of so much exploitation and deprivation of the country folk. They have been lured with promises that are not going to be fulfilled. The poet hopes in vain, like a child, for his wishes to be fulfilled. He cannot tolerate to see these people suffering. He feels bad when the people on the roadside stand wait expectantly for some cars to stop and keep praying needlessly. So the sadness that lurks near the open window there, that waits all day in almost open prayer, for the squeal of brakes, the sound of a stopping car, of all the thousand selfish cars that pass, just one to inquire what a farmer's prices are, and one did stop, but only to plough up grass. So thousands of cars pass, but all the city folk are selfish and they are not bothered about these people. If at all a car stops, it is either to inquire prices or directions, or they spoil the grass in backing the car. Sometimes some people stop and inquire if gas is available. This kind of attitude angers the poet, for there is no sign of gas anywhere on the roadside stand. So why do they stop and raise the hopes of these poor people? So, and one did stop, but only to plough up grass in using the yard to back and turn around, and another to ask the way to where it was bound, and another to ask could they sell it a gallon of gas. They couldn't, they had none, didn't it? Now, the poet claims that the business is not lucrative. And what he says, this annoys the farmer, this annoys the poet as well. That when these things are not available there, then why the city folks keep asking for such kind of things from them? No, in country money, the country scale of gain, the requisite lift of spirit, has never been found. So the poem ends with a feeling of remorse. At these feelings, when the poet realizes that the problems of these poor people cannot be solved instantly. Since these people lack money, their standard of living cannot be improved. As there are no resources, the rich of the country complain about the backwardness of the countryside, but do not share their prosperity with these poor people. The poet feels helplessness in the end and wants that someone should relieve them out of this pain by telling him that the poor people have been provided with justice, care, and comforts. So, what Robert Frost says, or so the voice of the country seems to complain. I can't help owing the great relief it would be to put these people at one stroke out of their pain. So he wants to improvise the condition of the rural people. And then next day, as I come back into the scene, I wonder how I should like you to come to me and offer to put me gently out of my pain. So, what the poet says, he feels helpless in the end and wants that something to be done to improvise their condition. He wants that these people should be provided justice, care, and comfort. This will ease the poet's emotional burden also. He feels that the day he learns of the relief work, it would gently pull him out of his pain and suffering. So, their relief and rehabilitation is totally overlooked due to the selfish interest of city people. But he also suggests in an indirect manner that the economic well being of a country depends on the balanced development of the villages and the cities. So we must realize our responsibility and we should take steps to improvise the condition of these rural people. So, in this poem, Robert Frost experiences insufferable pain at the plight of the rural people. He feels deep concern for them and wants that some serious steps must be taken to reduce their pain. The day he learns of the relief work, it would gently pull him out of his pain and suffering. This poem has many poetic devices used here. First one is personification. We can see there are many examples of the personification, and transferred epithet is also used. Apart from personification and transferred epithet, we have many examples of alliteration. Alliteration is there in the greedy good doers, the phrase beneficent beasts of prey, and pathetically pled as well. So there are many poetic devices, and apart from that, if you look at the message given by the poem, there is a beautiful message. The poet wants all the readers to get sensitized towards the plight of the rural people. The use of expressions, greedy good doers and beneficent beasts of prey beautifully bring out the use of irony and contrast as well. The men in power pose to be the benefactors and good doers of the poor rural people. In reality, they are greedy for power and pelf and exploit the rural masses for their vested interests. Not only this, the party in power promises them a dream world, a luxurious and progressive life, but these tall promises prove to be false as they are not fulfilled. The country folk thus complain that they are deprived of what they had been promised by the people in power. And sometimes the city dwellers did not appreciate the roadside stand. They never stopped there for refreshments If ever anyone stopped, they are only critical. And apart from that, there is one more thing, children. The men in power enforce such benefits on the country folk, which are well calculated in their own interests. And apart from that, there are many other things like the poet leaves us with a message. He wishes that great relief measures must be adopted to provide economic affluence to the country people and draw them out of their pain. There is a reference of country money or country scale of gain. These two expressions, these refer to the financial resources in the countryside. The country folk being dependent on farming, they cannot hope for rich resources of money. And in the countryside, there is a spirit which is lacking in them. The spirit required to be progressive and affluent is not to be found in countryside. And there is one wish of the poet. What he wants to sensitize the reader of the poem that we should be responsible enough to our surroundings. Only then the change in society can be brought.